Hi, I'm sure you enjoyed the case study, the Blinkit case study. I'm going to get into the mind map now and elaborate further on other points that I want to cover. So we saw the difference between value proposition and business model. In Blinkit's case, in Grover's case, the value proposition was correct. Everybody wanted delivery of groceries, but what are they willing to pay for it? That was the business model question, right? So why should customers choose you? Business model answers, how do you make money sustainably, right? It has to come in sustainably. It can't be a one-time thing. So business model is where you connect all the dots. Customers, who are your customers? What channels are you going to sell them on? What are the cost and what are your revenue streams? This is where business model comes into picture. Your business model is your money making machine. Close this. Okay. Business model defines how you turn your customers' problem into profit. Like I said, you've identified a great problem. Now we need to see how you can make a business out of it. Like, can you generate revenue? Are people willing to pay for that? And if it's your blueprint for creating value and capturing fair share of that value. Describes who you serve, what you offer. This we've discussed already. I want to pay attention to this particular part. Good business models are sustainable, repeatable, and are profitable. These are some of the typical business models that you will see in today's time. If you're a product company, right? If you have a product idea, typically these are the four models that you would fit into. For example, you have a SaaS ideas, software as a service. The example would be an email software or any software that you subscribe to that runs on subscription models, monthly, yearly subscriptions. And that also depends on utility, right? So you need to question the utility and the subscription price. Higher the utility, better the subscription that you can get. Then there is the e-commerce model. You could be, which is very common now, direct to customer D2C models that we see, that you're selling something online. A lot of us are selling things and services online. So you could have a product that you source from somewhere and you sell it online. You could have a product which is sold through direct store sales. So it could be anything that you are selling. You have a space and you're selling your products through that space. And you could have a combination of these models also. You're a manufacturer and you manufacture that product and then you sell it. Instead of sourcing it from an X person, you sell it, you create, you build it, and you sell it. Then there is a marketplace model, which is typically a buyer seller model, right? You see these models in Amazon is a buyer seller model, Flipkart is a buyer seller model. They've created marketplaces for buyers and sellers to meet, right? They usually charge the buyer for on subscription basis, and they market to sellers to come and buy from these people. Or you could have a meeting place, market meeting place. So, for example, dating apps, wedding apps, all of these are meeting place models where both parties pay, right? People who are looking or who are waiting to be found, both parties pay in these kind of models. Then there is a service model, which is on demand, right? Every customer might need a different service. Typically, an IT company would have different services for different people. Or you could have a standard service for everyone, like a cleaning service, that's a standard service for everyone. You could be a professional, right, who would be offering services like you are a doctor, now you're looking to build a hospital. So these are professional services, typically have fixed charges per visit or per hour, depending upon how they are. You are you have a commission model. So for example, you find so HR, let's say you hire people and you get a commission out of that, right? Or you probably take orders from customers. Let's say you get orders to build websites and you get websites done from another party. So these are commission based model. You could be in a rental model, like hotel is a typically you're renting a room, right? Or you're paying per use, right? So these are the typical models that you might be in. And there are always benchmarks for these models. There are enough benchmarks for these models for you to consider the price or the revenue generation models. The business models have to be repeatable and they have to be profitable. So these are the typical models you can consider. Your business model determines if you can get angel funding or bootstrap. Now we spoke about recurrence, right? Now, while you have a product, a service, or a marketplace, you also need to consider the recurrence. Are people going to come one time in many years or once in 3 months, 4 months? And typically, if you are that kind of a model, your product has higher value, right? So let's say I am someone who wants to get an app developed. I would be doing that once in many years, right? But the value or the cost of that service would be higher. So you need to see whether it's a one time. So for example, you're buying appliances. You buy a fridge or a microwave. You buy it once in probably 5 years, 6 years. So the cost of these products are generally higher, not because they're bought once in many years, but because yes, these products last that many years and then you kind of change it. So in these kind of models, the companies look for um, more customers. So we are not selling more per customer, but more customers. In the frequency models where the frequency is quite high, you saw the grocery delivery, that frequency is quite high. So there, what your aim is to get more orders per customer and also get more customers. And in the software scenario where fees is monthly, it could be, the OTT services that you're using. You kind of, just purchase it for a year. So the recurrence there is also pretty high. So you need to factor in recurrence. What is this recurrence number that you are expecting? So, for example, you made a service and you say, okay, at least if somebody subscribes it for 3 months, that gives me profitability, right? But if they subscribe and leave it in 1 month, I might make a loss. So you should know what is the recurrence that you are expecting in your business. So most startups fail because of business model problems. So they don't know how to, price things, how to generate revenue, and these are the areas which have always been, um, you know, weaker areas in the startup ecosystem. So the business models, you get inspired from others, just copy their business model, but that may not work for you as a startup. So you need to see how you start these business models and how they will evolve. Fundamentally, you should know what is your cost, right? And that cost should be covered with the revenue that you're trying to make. And the revenue is impacted by frequency and it's impacted by the industry you are in. You must have heard this terminology TAM, SAM, SOM. Now, these are not just simple words or let's go through it and try and understand these the understanding of TAM SOM is very important for any startup. So let's go through this. So TAM is total addressable market, everyone who could theoretically use your solution. This is theoretically, right? People are, so for example, you are in the travel business and you might say, oh, travel business is or the ticketing business is theoretically $5 billion market, right? That's theoretically, that's probably, and you could say, okay, just in India, it's about $1 billion. That's theoretical, larger number in a market, right? SAM is serviceable addressable market, who you can actually reach with your business model eventually. So you can say, okay, the ticketing model is about $1 billion. If I grow at an X rate, I can acquire 3% of the market. That's 300 million or $30 million of the market. And serviceable, obtainable market, who you can actually realistically capture in 3 to 5 years. So, for example, I'm starting a travel agency. I might say, okay, realistically, while TAM SAM is XY, realistically, I can capture about X% of SAM because that is the market available to me locally, right? So, this is what I can capture with the given business model that I have. So investors want to see the large TAM but believable SOM, right? So people understand, okay, this is the entire market. This is what, eventually we can capture, but what is your SOM, right? Serviceable, obtainable market. Small TAM means limited growth potential. So if the total addressable market itself could be 10 million, $20 million, what are you going to, what is going to be your SOM, right? So that's not very high. So typically, if you're going for funding or if you're looking to get seed funding, your TAM should be pretty high, right? It should be something very sizable. I mean, I would say more than $500 million at least, So focus on SOM for your business planning. This is your real opportunity. When you're doing numbers, SOM should be your consideration. In the next video, I'm going to talk about the various factors involved in building a business model.